Okay, today it's all about the number one way that drinking is ruining your life. It's not funny. I'm laughing because some of you are thinking, well, I don't drink, or it's not ruining my life. And so here's the thing. Alcohol addiction and opiate addiction and gambling and all kinds of addictions are ruining so many people's lives that I feel actually confident in making this the headline of my video, because enough of you have somebody in your life who's addicted and it's ruining their life. If that's not you, you know somebody that's happening to, and you're watching it. So today we're going to talk about the number one way that we get stuck in this thing and we can't get out. So I wanted to start by telling you the story of this girl who was shattered a little bit as a young person, and her parents got divorced. She was distraught about that, and for whatever reason, at about 12 years old, she started with her friends stealing liquor from her parents, not her parents. I'm talking about myself here, you all. I'm talking about myself. And the reality is that I started drinking when I was about 12 years old. 12 years old. And to me, that is mind-blowing today, because I have a girl who just turned 13, and it's kind of horrifying to think about that little brain being soaked in alcohol. But there I was, and from about 12 to 14, I drank a little bit sneaking around. And when I got to be 14 and I got to high school, I moved up to the big leagues, and I hung out with my friends, and we drank a lot, mostly on weekends, and I would drink an awful lot. And by the time I was 16, I was drinking a lot. Almost every day I would go after school and drink with my friends in the bar, because when you're a 16-year-old young girl, sometimes men like to buy you drinks, and that was me. And so by the time that I was 17, my life was really a mess. I was distraught, and my relationships were in shambles, and I wasn't quite sure what was going on. I know that I would wake up full of shame, and that more dogs and people. This time of my life was very dark, and I remember fighting with my mom. I remember moving out when I was 16 years old, and my dad was pretty much absent and gone. And my sister stopped talking to me because she saw what I was doing to my mom as an affront, and she was blaming me for hurting my mom. And so she stopped talking to me for like 6 months. And I remember one time we were walking, I had gotten off a bus and she had gotten off a bus, and we were both walking down this same very small alley on our way home. And she was just in front of me, and she just acted as if I wasn't there. And we walked home this whole way down this alley with her ignoring me. And as we were walking up the stairs to our house, I said, Are you going to hate me forever? And she turned around and she looked at me and she said, No one hates you, Anne. And she walked away. And interestingly enough, in that moment, that was enough encouragement for me to say, oh, maybe not everyone hates me. So the fact that was enough encouragement for me will give you some indication of kind of where my family was at that point. It was tough. It was a tough family. We'd been through a lot of hard things. My father was an active, heavy drinker, completely unaware. And so I think with that little spark, and I had to have several more sparks, and several more people help me come to realize that drinking was causing a lot of the problems that I had. I would wake up in the morning and I would be so horrified at not being able to remember where I'd been, what I'd been doing, with whom. And so I got lucky. I went to treatment, and in treatment something happened there for me at 18. I turned 18 when I was in treatment. And this whole new world opened up to me, and it helped me understand things about myself that had never occurred to me before. It gave me a structure and a framework to understand who I was in ways that I had never been given. And it was as if someone had opened a brand new door for me. And I walked through it because I needed to walk through that door. I needed life to be different. So that was when I was 18. And today, the 12th of February, is 34 years later. And so today, I have been sober for 34 years. And every day, I'm very grateful for that. And I know that my life would be really different. My relationships would be very different. My mind, my body, if I were here at all, it would all be quite different. So today I want to talk about one of the ways that we get tripped up around addiction, and why it's such a catch-22, and what we need to do to try to get ourselves out of that catch-22. If you know someone and you love someone who is addicted to something, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's this. In order to make a change in our lives, we have to see that it's something about us or our behavior that needs to change. And what happens when we are addicted is that the alcohol or the opiates or the gambling or whatever it is creates a pattern in our minds that keeps us from understanding that our behavior is the problem. The way that we are acting is the problem. In order to make any kind of change, you need to have really honest eyes. You need to have really honest eyes to look at your life and say, okay, is this working? Is this the way that I want it to be? And you can say no, honestly, but when you start to look at why that is, a lot of times it's easier to point to external factors and to say, you know, my boss is a jerk, or I have never been cut any breaks ever, or, you know, my lover doesn't understand anything about me, or my kids, they're just really ungrateful people who just don't really know what it means to be a parent, and honor your parents. There's lots and lots of ways we get really creative as drunks or addicts in blaming out here somewhere, not in here, not in here. And so honest eyes is the thing that we need to make a change. And honest eyes is one of the things that you give up when you become an addict. When you drink too much, when you use too much, when you gamble too much, when anything takes over your mind and it becomes your driving force, you lose your honest eyes. And so when you don't have honest eyes, you can't say, all right, you know, that's me, that's on me. That's something that I did, that's my impact, and I need to change that. And that's what makes it really, really difficult to quit, to change, to recover. But I'm here to tell you 34 years in that it is so worth it, and I know that for some of you watching it's worth it too, and I know that you've had this experience, and it's hard to explain how completely different life is when you finally make the realization that there's something that you're doing that is causing the problems in your life. And drinking is a huge one. So I wanted to think about some of the ways that you can get more honest eyes if you're interested in doing that, because you can't trust yourself. If you are giving yourself a pass right now and you've had lots of other people tell you that you have a drinking problem, but you're like, yeah, you know, I've really looked into that and I'm pretty clear I'm not. Okay, you can give yourself a pass. But if you want to explore it more thoroughly, if you want to kind of think about, all right, well, maybe there's something to this. There's some ways that you can ask genuine questions and start to really analyze your life in a really pragmatic way. So one of the things that is important in our world is to do what you say you're going to do, right? So if you are saying one thing and your behavior is something completely different, that's a pretty big disconnect. Now, I can almost hear some of you saying, yeah, but everybody does that, right? And it's true. Everybody does that. Everybody lies to themselves a little bit, right? And sometimes we say something and we intend to do it and something else happens and we do something else instead. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the occasional lack of integrity. I'm talking about you have a story about who you are, and your behavior is something completely different. So an example would be, I am a responsible person, and yet you don't pay your bills, and you don't show up when you say you will, or you make commitments that you don't intend to keep and you don't keep. You say one thing, but you do something else. That's a problem, my friend. Not just for you, but for all the people in your life. And it's clear to everybody else that you're having that problem. You know, maybe you say something like, I'm a really good mom. I'm a really good parent. So what does that mean to you? And I would suggest and encourage you to lay out really what that means. On paper, make a list, and take a look at your list, and do you do those things? Do you show up for your kids? Are you emotionally there for them? Are you present? Do you come to their things? Because 90% of being a good parent is showing up and being there for them. So it's pretty hard to show up for anyone when your primary focus is over there at that next thing that you need to do, whether that's a drink, or whether it's to go gambling, or whether it's to buy that thing online, or whatever it is that is your thing. It's pretty hard to be present and clear in your relationships. So that's kind of what I've learned in 34 years. There's so much to this, there's so much, and one of the things that's happened for me is I've been sober this whole time, but there have been times where I haven't been paying enough attention to my life and staying on the path of clarity and really checking myself. And for a while, I had to develop skills and tools to use so that I could say, am I being honest here, or am I fooling myself? Do I have honest eyes? And it's hard to have honest eyes on ourselves. So I will tell you the thing that I always tell you, which is to get some help. Find someone you trust, someone who really trusts, who can really see you and really knows. Don't go find the person who's going to tell you what you want to hear. We can all do that any day of the week. Find the person who's going to be honest with you. Find the person who's going to help you have the honest eyes so that you can take back your life, so that you can be present for your life and for yourself and for your people and for your work. And, so that you can become who you want to be, really. That's what we're all about here. I'm Ann O'Connor with Metamorphics. That's what I have for you today. I hope that you're having a great day. I hope your eyes are honest and that your world is, if not sunny, at least beautiful.